So one of my favorite things to do is English paper piece, and what I wanted to do right now is give a brief overview of how I English paper piece and some of the supplies that I use to EPP, as they call it. First, the needles. I use a selection of different types of needles. You could obviously use whatever you're comfortable with and what works for you, but something like this Golden Glide Applique size 10 needle. Hopefully you can see that. Or something like a milliner needle, a straw needle. This is a size 8, which I think works better for me than the size 10 because of the eye of the needle is a little bigger on the size 8, so I can see it and thread it more easily. And here's a straw needle, size 10. This looks like it's Jenna Kimball's Foxglove Cottage. I just got these recently to try these out. The thread I like to use is this Gutermann 100% cotton. It's almost like it's got a coating on it that makes it a little more smooth and easy to use for hand sewing. And sometimes I think makes it easier for me to thread the needle. Of course, here are my papers. I have an assortment of squares. I like to cut a generous square. These are probably about 3 inches by 3 inches. I find that makes it easier for me to paper piece. Here's one with a little deer on it. This is a new one I got recently, this floral one, which I love. And a small pair of scissors. These are a little pair of Fiskars. These work for trimming the fabric while I'm paper piecing, and as well as obviously snipping threads. And this is my favorite needle book that I've made myself. I like to have that on hand. You can see I use the front of it to store my pieces of fabric in that I'm waiting to be used, like this gorgeous Liberty piece right there. And I filled it with plenty of pages, if you will, to hold my needles. And you can see I have all different kinds of needles in here, different sizes. And I have one in here that I stuck here in this vintage quilt piece that's already got a little bit of thread on it. So I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to put my needle book over here to the side. And let's just make sure there's a knot in the end of the thread. It looks like there's not a knot in this one yet, so I'm going to go ahead and do that first. Oop, I thought I got it. Be tricky. Okay, knot in there. There's a knot in there. So I'm going to start with this piece of fabric right here, and I'm going to take a paper piece and place it, you know, in the area of the fabric that I want to capture on the hexagon. So when I'm looking at this fabric, I'm looking right there in the middle. In particular, I like that flower, this flower, the flower pot. So I'm going to put my paper piece in that area, in that vicinity. And now that I have it in place, I go ahead and trim up the square. Again, like I said, I like to use a generous sized square because I find that makes it easier for me when I'm paper piecing. So you can see I'm leaving a generous allowance here as I rotate it in my hand. So I've got a generous amount of fabric to fold over when I'm trying to paper piece. You don't want to keep it too short. When I feel like the 1/4 inch is not, for me personally, not quite enough fabric to fold over comfortably and get a good grip in my hand to make a neat edge. So then I use my finger here to press it down, and I hold it with one finger and I fold over the corner. And I just do 1 stitch in there. And then I come over here, I turn it with my fingers, and again, same thing, I hold down with my left thumb because I'm right-handed. Holding down with my left thumb, I put the needle in, and I'm going to return, and I sometimes adjust the paper in there to make sure that it hasn't come out any, that it hasn't moved. And then I've got one more side to do, and then that's a point that I flip it over and I sort of adjust the fabric as needed to make sure that the paper piece is in there, pushed down. I like to get as clean edges as possible when I'm paper piecing. And then it looks like almost done. Just enough thread. See what you can do with even a small piece of thread. I don't like to waste any of it. It's got this little length at the end, and so of course then I go ahead and trim off the thread bits at the end. But you can see here I made a cute little hexagon. I love this craft so much. I love that it's portable. I could take it places, sitting with my son at a soccer game, or doctor's office waiting room, or a road trip. I just loved English paper piece. Let me know if this was helpful, and tag me in your EPP so I can see what you're making.